Hello, hello. How's everyone? Thank you for
Howdy,
joining.
howdy.
Thank you for joining. So here we got another episode. Today we have pizza data visualizations. And we
Yes.
have Dr. Joe, friend Dr. Joe. Thank you for being here, Dr. Joe.
Thank you.
We have Chris Tover
Right.
and Michael Perello. This is gonna be incredible. I mean, you guys done this before. I mean, can't wait
Yep.
to see this. We're gonna have data visualization related like to pizza stuff, super cool stuff. This is the first time to be here, so you know that everybody won here have a data visualization that none of us have seen before. And the idea for us is just to, talk about it. What do we think about these data visualizations? How can we make them better? What we don't understand. Just learning about data visualization in general and having fun. And if you're in the chat, you can also, answer these questions. Be with us here. So I'm gonna start asking. So, Dr. Joe, what is your favorite pizza? What do you usually order when you call a pizza place or
Oh
something?
my goodness. So we typically get from myself, my wife, and our younger son who's still living at home, we
Mhm.
get hamburger on
Oh,
all of it, chicken on his side, and mushrooms on everyone's side.
oh wow,
So
that's awesome.
hamburger chicken, and mushroom.
Hamburger chicken mushroom. I heard that mushroom is the number one ingredient. Apparently, it's one of the
Yep.
number one ingredients.
As long as you
That's
don't pull them up out of the
yeah,
ground.
yeah. So, what about you, Chris? What do you order at home for your kids and
Oh
stuff?
man, I wish I could order it at home. I love a taco pizza. I love like the
Oh,
fusion of taco, but you never see it anymore. And it used to be like I think Tombstone used to do it, the frozen
mhm.
one, and I haven't seen that like in
Wow.
decades. So if any of you know of a place to get a taco pizza, I'm there.
Wow, that's incredible. That's like super interesting. I never thought that that would be a thing. I mean, that's awesome.
I
What
love it.
about you, Michael? Michael over there in Phoenix. What are they? What is your favorite?
Yeah, I've got two go-tos: traditional pepperoni
Mhm.
and Hawaiian. So ham and
Hawaiian.
pineapple. I know that probably
Wow.
doesn't resonate with a lot of people, but you know what? It's
I
good.
like I like pineapple too. I like pineapple too. Pineapple and ham or pineapple and prosciutto or something like that. That's awesome. That's awesome. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with something that we have started last week. That is, we're gonna show and Dr. Joe, I think you will be like, wow! It's like we each would like to show three quick data visualization bloopers. These are insane data visualizations that people are like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? That somebody, is doing that and show something that makes no sense at all. And let me see, you guys can see my screen. So you're gonna love this because this is from Florida and we're from Florida. Tell me, what do you think about this craziness?
What?
Exactly. Exactly.
Ay, ay, ay. What in the cat hair is that?
It's one of
Yeah,
those where it looks
It's like
bad enough at first glance, and then it looks even worse the more you look at it.
yeah. I think that's why we don't have too many cases in Florida here.
right. The scale makes absolutely no sense
It's like,
whatsoever. It's like an upside down. It's an upside down scale, and
Mhm.
what do the colors mean?
Mhm.
And that 4,000 is like
the
uh,
smallest one.
right, and
Yeah.
that's crazy. Even
This is a beast blooper. So we're bringing this beast
oh
bloopers,
my word.
and this is what
Woo.
politicians always win. Chris, this is what politicians always win. Because look at the
Oh man.
14. This guy won because
Oh boy.
he's apparently higher than the 14. And
Oh
and I see
man.
Leandro. This is from Brazil. You're there in the chat. I see you. I mean, that's what that's they sent me this from Brazil.
Wow.
So this is another beast blooper, real quick, and then this one it's more interesting. This is for Chris. So Chris, look, the 56 apparently is this now.
Yeah. What? Oh my god.
What?
Oh my god. Oh
Oh,
boy. Yeah.
some beast
Yeah.
bloopers here. Michael, what do you think about this one in the 50? Apparently the the 3.6 is the white area here.
Yeah,
I mean,
this just proves why we still have jobs.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know. You spend so much time trying to look at this and analyze and try to figure out, what are we missing? But yeah, I just don't think people
My
get it.
favorite this week is definitely this one from Florida. Yeah, that's what we don't. That's what we don't wear masks in Florida. That's what we don't. We do whatever we want here. We're free
Yeah.
country here, Dr. Joe in Florida. Do whatever we want.
Goodness.
This is incredible.
I guess they want to show that the lower number is better and you have more safety with fewer cases, and that's why the bar is bigger. I
I
don't
think you
know.
just put more thought into it than they did.
Yeah, right. Apparently
Oh.
so. Oh, good heavens. That's crazy.
Man.
Anyway, so let me see. So Chris, show us what you got. Show us what you got. Chris is gonna
Okay.
start.
Okay,
Chris
let me
always
start.
got crazy, incredible stuff.
First I'll start because I have done a lot of work, and I still do a lot of work for Papa John's, which happens to sell pizza.
Okay.
So I was so excited to join this chat today. And you guys can see that this is first. I'll start off with one of my bad ones, and I'll move on to another one. I actually made this. I'm not proud to admit, years and years ago.
Okay.
And so full disclosure, I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking more than what those bloopers were that you just showed. But I thought at the time this was a good idea. Like, oh, why not do like not a bar chart, not a pie chart? Let me do like a little people chart, and these are the people buying the pizza. And I am so sorry I did this. I've learned a lot since then. This was I was just a kid then. But no, so one to show you guys. So of course they had I don't know if we're all gonna be showing pie charts with the pizza theme today, but I came across this one. And there's many opinions I have on it, but yeah, love to hear what you guys have to say.
It's good. What do you think, Mike? What do you think?
Well, one, I think the math isn't really necessarily adding up, but I'm trying to figure out for each slice, what's the most popular combination here. Immediately I went to the ham and pineapple. That's my thing. That's fine.
Hawaiian.
But if we're looking at total percentage of, is that just coverage? I guess. Again, we're exceeding 100% there, but I don't know.
I mean, this is from. I've seen this before. This is what they did this on Makeover Monday, I think, because of the.
Okay.
How was it? I knew about the mushroom. It's just like the calculation is just done incorrectly. It's just like, what is mushroom out of the total? What is tomato out of? Do you know what I mean? It's just not
right
done correctly. I mean, it's just not done right. Let me see what they have in the chat. What do you think, Dr. Joe, about this craziness?
Yeah, it is crazy. For one thing, the six. I don't think that they were trying to achieve anything insofar as proportional sizes of the slices, because they're all the same size, for one thing.
Exactly.
For another thing, when you add up the numbers and you get like 472%. How can you have 472% of a single pizza, right? And then what is it that you're comparing as our esteemed colleagues were saying? It's 65% of what? 65% of total coverage, 65% of the total order. And the other thing is, it's a select as many as you like. So yes, of course, when you have people that are able to make multiple choices in their evaluation, then yeah, by definition, the numbers will always add up to greater than 100. So if I were doing this and I still wanted to have the pizza, I would have done this I'm skipping ahead to your other question. I think it's somewhere.
No. You're good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, this should be a bar chart. Okay, you could still do pizzas. The bars, I mean, if you want to shape them like wedges, like pizza wedges, to keep keep the motif of the pizza going here, and for the pepperoni, make the wedge look like a pepperoni. For the ham and pineapple, make them look like ham and pineapple, but flip it. Have no, wait a minute, hold it. Horizontal, horizontal bar chart, and have each bar be the different the different toppings in descending order, with mushrooms up at the top, then ham, then peppers, then pepperoni, then tomato, then bacon, sweet corn, spinach, bleh. I mean olives, and then spinach. Bleh. Excuse me, that's my bias here. And then they would still be, or if you want to make them like breadsticks, right?
Yeah,
Pizza topped breadsticks. At least breadsticks have the same shape
exactly.
as as a bar chart. And so each breadstick, it would be a pepperoni looking breadstick, a pepper looking
Exactly.
breadstick, and so on and so forth. If I were doing it, that's how I do it, and then flip it on its side, and you would still have the really cool effect of making it look sort of kind of like a pizza, only pizza topped breadsticks,
Correct.
and maybe a little faded watermark pizza graphic in the background,
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
It will work. So, what do you think, Chris? What do you wanted to say?
Yeah. No, that's cool. Like that sparks more ideas, because I'm with you guys on this. I think as I look at this more, I bet this was probably like a stock photo of the pizza cut like this, and then somebody, for whatever reason, instead of making a bar chart, said, "Oh, you know what? We'll label this stock photo." And it doesn't work. And then this is another example. The deeper you go, the more confusing it gets. Like in the footnote, it says, other items not depicted include onions, 62%. Well, gee, 62% would be like the second biggest topping choice, but they didn't show it because I guess the stock photo didn't have any onions on it. So it's like, what are you trying to do here? But I like that idea. Like I would do it too if I had the time and to capture this idea. Like, okay, can we make this a visually interesting graphic? You could have like a pizza crust at the bottom, and then have like, okay, 65%, these are the mushrooms are going on it, and then like 60% are the peppers, 56% are the pepperonis, and make each bar chart like the actual the topping, and it kind of then shows you the idea, like what are people putting on top of the pizza, because it does get to the idea that some of these will be layered too, so you might have actually a mushroom and pepperoni and spinach. Only the insane people do the ham and pineapple. Sorry, Michael. But because I studied that too, it actually gets kind of complicated, the toppings on pizza, like the different combinations, and then if they do it on the left hand side versus on the right hand side, and then they mix up the crust. It actually that's one of the hardest things I've done in the past few years, is looking at topping analysis of pizzas. So so it can get tricky. But this is not the way to do it. And I think a lesson for anyone, if you do see, hey, that's a great photo, I'm just going to stick some data labels on it.
Exactly.
Please don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, back in high school, I used to work for a pizza establishment making pizzas, and we get to make our own. And this is a perfect example. At the end of the night, we'd go in and stock up pretty much every topping you could, and you'd have like 1,500% of toppings in your pizza. And we know now from experience that that is not a good combination. It doesn't taste good. The ratio is bad. And so I think depending on, what we're trying to get out of this story, whether it's optimal flavor, taste, profit, I love the ideas from, Dr. Joe and Chris. Hey, here's the proper amount of ratio based on the toppings that you select. If you're going to do ham and pineapple, this is the optimal ratio for profitability, for flavor, for taste. And it doesn't have to necessarily be, a pie, right? Use a bar chart, use something that makes sense. It's got to be intuitive just by looking at it.
The last thing I wanted to say, Chris, is the thing that got me crazy is, so if you guys look where it says bacon, right? Bacon, sweet corn, and peppers. Look how all of them are in the same triangle, like in the same
Yeah.
slide,
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
on the same. So I'm like, what
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's confusing. I mean, it's like multiple annotations to the same slice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible.
Exactly.
Incredible. So you have another. You say you have another one, I think, right?
Well, actually, yeah. I'll follow up with like you guys were saying the bar chart. I did find this example too. Like, okay, if you want to use a pizza, yeah, just have that to the
nice.
side. But then the bar chart that shows the mushrooms, and this is an interesting one of men versus women. But I'll leave it at that. But yeah, this was
I like it.
a
Yeah.
better approach.
Yes.
This is what Dr. Joe, what you were saying. Think about these are the breadsticks that you were talking about, right? This is
Kind of
exactly
skinny. The breadsticks are kind of skinny, but that's okay.
What I like is, so on the left is the women and the right is the men, right? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. No. Look
What
at the
the-
color.
Yeah.
If you go by the
Yeah.
color, women, it
In the
doesn't
left.
say left and right, but the color of the font, the women is the darker colored font and the men is the lighter color font.
Okay.
So it makes
Yeah.
you assume that that's what they mean. Plus, I know
Yeah.
my wife that, you know, and I know we both equally like mushrooms. Well, neither of us like spinach, but she likes bacon more than I do. And yeah, this kind of follows along with our personal preferences. So yeah.
This is cool because you see here, Chris, they use the pizza on the right just to grab the attention, but it's not in a chart. And then the data is here in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was better. I would just suggest in this one though, I love the question, does pineapple belong on a pizza? That also brings your attention, like the image, but then that's not answered quickly in the visual. Then you have to really dig in and see, you know,
right?
Because it's kind of like a bait and switch. Like, we're not going to actually answer this question. We're just posing a question. The answer is obviously no. Sorry, Michael. But you have to look to see. You know, do people like it or not? And it's kind of buried down here.
What do you think, Michael, about this one?
I think this chart does a really good job of, you know, at least covering what it says it does. Now, I don't know at the title, you know, does pineapple belong on a pizza? You know, it's subjective. It doesn't really indicate one way or another. But what I think it does do well is support kind of the ancillary annotations. You know, 50% of the Brits surveyed don't prefer pineapple, and so forth. And I do like how they kind of split it up between men and women also.
Yeah.
So, you know, the only things that I might change is some of the sizing and coloring, the font style. For me, it's still a little difficult to read the variation between the men and the women on the colors. At least for me, is a little subtle, so it is difficult to discern. But otherwise, I think the information being presented is pretty clear. I appreciate that.
That's great. Anything you want to say, Dr. Joe, about the this
Sure. So yeah, I agree with Chris and, you know, all of you guys. It does a better job than the first one. You still have the motif of the pizza, but at the very beginning, you notice Chris, or no, not Chris, you, Yamil, you thought, oh yeah, it shows men on the left and women on the right, which further emphasizes what was said about the colors not being, you know, being too subtle of a difference, right? And you know, the provocative question about the pineapple, yeah, it does stimulate questions and it does stimulate discussion and it does want lead people to dig deeper, and that's what a graphic, any visualization should do. The purpose of a good visualization, yeah, needs to answer a question, but it also needs to get us to the point where we dig deeper and stimulate discussion for getting more information. But you know, if I were going to do this, I'd put a different question, like, is it a gender gap or a gender snap? You know, yeah, right? Instead of asking, does pineapple belong on a pizza? You know,
Yeah.
So I just love the way they did this. But yeah, bring out a little more, more of a distinction in the color changes, a different typeface, maybe a sans serif. Serif fonts don't do well white on black and on a small size. You can see sans serif fonts like an Arial or something much better in a smaller size than you can serif font, like whatever that is, I guess Times New Roman or whatever. So I would change the type of the font. I would bump up the size of the font, even if you have to reposition some things to make the bars slightly wider to accommodate a slightly bigger, font for identifying what each of the toppings are. And I like the way that they're doing it in descending order of popularity, where the one, whatever it is, anchovies, and I can't see what's under the anchovies.
Something else.
Oh, something, is that what that says?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like
Miscellaneous.
miscellaneous column. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that you can tell, you can tell at a glance the gender breakdown by where in, how far the bar is over left or right. And you can tell at a glance by the width, what's more popular, what's less popular. And the whole thing visually, you notice, sort of kind of looks like a deformed pizza slice. Sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody. So in the chat, somebody said, I mean, this is Aaron said, this is difficult for me to compare male to female on each toppings. Your eyes have to go back and forth along the bar to compare each. So pretty much what we were just talking about. And, it's very interesting. He also said that this is difficult for me to compare male to, oh, sorry, it's the same thing. Oh, here. He said 40% agree. That is still a significant number, although you cannot really see that with the layout or color used. So the same thing that we were just talking about, right? A better color choice probably will be easier to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if Aaron was kind of talking about this, but if you're really kind of focusing on does pineapple belong on pizza, I would have liked pineapple to be emphasized, at least in the bar chart, maybe a different color, and then have some more information supporting for each topping, just like it does at the very top, right? 58% Brits, don't prefer pineapple. Well, then talk to me about the other toppings, how that compares to pineapple. Otherwise, again, compared to anchovies and pork and jalapenos, those apparently don't belong on pizza, whereas pineapple scales higher on the list. So
Correct.
Michael had to get a Michael had to get a plug there for for pineapple for the Hawaiian pizza. That's right.
That's true. So Chris, do you have any other, or that was the?
No, that's it. Yeah.
That's it. That's awesome.
Yep.
So I think if you want at Joe, what to show us? I think you have some crazy visualization you wanted to show us, or something that makes people their eyes explode or something.
Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do. If you have it up, or do you want me to share?
Aaron, can you pull one up? To see if Aaron can pull it for us.
The multifaceted pie within a pie within a pie. Concentric pies. Yeah, that's the name of my new company, Concentric Pies Incorporated, where pizza comes to life.
Yeah, see if Aaron can show us one. If not, let me see if I can pull it up. You have it, Aaron, or you want us to show something else? Will you get it? Or if not, Michael, can you show us what you got, and then
yeah,
okay,
yeah, I'll go ahead and
do
that.
Show us quick, and we go back to.
All right, let me know when it's coming through.
Yeah, got it. Here it is.
Okay. Okay.
We got it. Very cool.
So my chart is representing the data that's found on the OneBite app. So OneBite is a kind of almost like a daily pizza review by Dave Portnoy. There's also customer, just regular people reviews that go out and do their own thing, and they can submit reviews of any pizza chain across the U.S. and all that. So what we're looking at least on this dashboard, and we'll cover a few of them if we have some time. This one is really just an overview of all the data since 2013. And when I say all the data, it's not necessarily up to date, but it's pretty recent as of, I think, last week.
Okay.
So across that whole application, nearly 36,000 restaurants have been reviewed. We can see almost 38,000 users. By Dave himself, he's visited at least almost 900 of them. And his average score, based on a scale of 0 to 10, across all of these has been 7.2. So, yeah, I'll let you kind of assess this. This is just that main dashboard that kind of gives you a rundown. And like I said, we'll go through maybe a couple more after this.
So let me give you this straight so everybody knows in the chat. And I've seen this before. This is so guys, this is a guy that goes everywhere, and he kind of like go to every single pizza place you can imagine. He's pretty famous online. He's a YouTuber, owner of I think, what company is his owner? Is it
Barstool Sports?
Barstools, yes, the company Barstool, the gaming sports gaming company. He's kind of like this. I think he's the CEO, and he's obsessed with pizza. And he goes everywhere, and he does this, like reviews, and people do reviews too on the app. And this app is just for that, just for pizza reviews everywhere in the US. So that's what it is, and that's his face right there in the middle, the two numbers in the middle. So what do you think, Chris, about this in general?
Well, yeah, for me, it's helpful to hear some of the background, but then my main question would be like, what am I supposed to do with this? And I'm not sure. It's like great in terms of, I guess, some background on the credibility of what he's doing. But if I'm trying to figure out where should I go for pizza tonight, this doesn't help me. And that's ultimately like, what does the audience want? Like, what's going to help them? And so that's like my first thing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. But then the second thing, it's a couple of my pet peeves. The top is just factoids. You don't know, like, is that good or bad? Is that getting better, getting worse? Again, what action am I supposed to take by knowing that there are 36,000 users or venues or users? And then my second pet peeve on this is the dual axis. I try to avoid that at all costs because and in this case in particular, I think is not an effective use of it. If you have to use it, it better be a very good reason to use it. And in this case, I don't think it is, because it's simply just showing, like, I don't think there's any correlation. It's just that there's ratings and there's volume of reviews, and I don't know why they don't seem to be linked in any way. So there doesn't seem to be a reason to put them on the same chart. That's my 2 cents. Or 3 cents or 4 cents. Or
so what do you think, Joe, about this particular?
So, in a way, I go with Chris in that with the factoids, there's not okay, and let me what's the word? Caveat, a big caveat. I'm going only by the image that I see, and not having any idea what kind of interactivity that there might be within the chart. And here's why I say that. The 35,687 venues is meaningless unless somehow there's some sort of interactivity in the graph, where you could say filter on some of the venues. The question about, okay, yeah, this is cool. It leads a lot of credence and street cred and credibility to the research that he does and how incredibly thorough he is, and useful to know that in the month of July, pizza tends to be less highly rated than in the
Mhm.
month of October. For
Mhm.
example, I mean,
Mhm.
if that's what, yeah, looking at right score. So the line graph represents the score, and the bar graph represents how many people, so that you can
Mhm.
see at a glance, people tend to get more pizza in July than they do in October or January, but the pizza itself tends to be more highly rated in
Mhm.
October than it is in July. I
Mhm.
got all that in about 3 seconds just by looking at it. That makes it a good chart if that's what I'm trying to do, right? But again, on the negative side, if what I'm trying to do is figure out what, well, do I go to Papa John's or do I go to Pizza Hut? Well, gee, this doesn't tell me unless there's some kind of a filter somewhere, like where you click on a bar, say,
Mhm.
let's see, these are weekly, I guess. I don't know. The one like right over the 2 in right on the 02 over July 2021. Let's say that's the 3rd week of July. I click on that, and will that show me the 300 the 1700 people, the 1700 reviews? And if so, will I be able to, say, filter on how did the Papa John's, how were the Papa John's rated versus how were the Pizza Huts rated versus how were the Domino's rated? In which case, that might give me a better picture to know, okay, well then Pizza Hut seems to be doing better in July than they are in April. Domino's seems to be doing better in October than they are in January. That kind of thing, which would be revealed to me by the fact that that it's drillable. I like the way you can zoom out and look at like a whole year, 2018, 2020, 20. I guess that's what that means. And when you click, you're zooming in on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 month, I guess, a 6 month span of time within, the overall thing. So I like what it's doing, but
Mhm.
I don't have enough information to say overall, is it awesomely cool? Yeah, it does look cool, but unless there is some of that interactivity that I mentioned, there are some things lacking. So I don't want to go hating, I don't want to go hating on it or anything, but you know, yeah,
do,
I see that.
do, do you think that, Michael, what is missing is the most number one thing, just a title? What is that we're trying to, right?
Yeah.
To
No, I think the emphasis on this dashboard
Mhm.
was more just, hey, here's what's in the app.
Okay.
It's almost like a marketing thing.
Mhm.
And I agree with all the comments from Dr. Joe and Chris. Yeah, I want more interactivity. And you don't actually get the interactivity. You can actually go to the different dashboards and you
Oh,
can get to that granularity. And we'll jump into one of them in a moment. But at the surface, it's just like, hey, if you were going to a corporate website, we've got 50,000 employees, and you know these are the contributions that we've made. It's just to make you feel good. Or if you're a marketing department within the organization, it's like, look, we're trending up. It's good. But for analysis, I agree. These just pose more questions than what you're
Mhm.
able to get answers out of, and you'd probably want to click through and do that. I just don't think that was the intent here. I think it was more just,
right.
hey, here's what we got.
Yeah.
Um, but I will go kind of into, uh, we've got a section for the reviews, and I know we had made some comments about the restaurants
There you
themselves and the
go.
reviews. So you can get to it. The unfortunate part was it didn't tie well with the interactivity. So you kind of have to bounce around and through some of these things, do some filtering. That's one of the things I didn't necessarily like, but um, we can stick on this one, for example. Um, and you can see, you know, uh, right now it's not very clear, but I am selected on Dave's review. So Dave is only one individual, so that's why we've got one. If we go to kind of this regular view, these are just people out there doing their own reviews for these restaurants in general. And if we deselect it, now we get everybody, Dave
Mm,
and the community, and it's ordered by default. by Dave's review, his highest to
Okay.
lowest. And the nice thing about, at least in this dashboard, you can actually filter on these things and sort them, which is kind of nice.
I think going back to Chris, what Chris says at the beginning is super important, Chris. I think what it needs on the first page is how to read instructions.
Yeah.
And then that will answer what Chris was asking, like, what should I do with this? Because then Chris will say, oh, cool, I'm going to go to this tab because Chris wants to know about where he lives in Florida. What are those reviews, right? Like maybe that's maybe what
exactly.
Oh, that's cool.
Like walking through this helps, but yeah, and that's that's a struggle I deal with too. I'm sure you guys do as well. Like how do you intuitively guide a user who didn't create the dashboard along that type of path? So it just feels like, oh, I want to find out about this, and they just naturally go. That's a real skill, And so it is good, Michael, to see kind of this walkthrough, knowing that there's more behind it. But yeah, it's still not structured in a way. It's almost like, again, that the intent is, hey, use this dashboard or use this to find the place that you should go. It almost needs to say, like, start like a map view, like, well, where are you right now? And then and then kind of go from there. So
correct. I like that.
But even to that, I mean, when you look at the map, it's just circles everywhere. It doesn't necessarily point out highlights. Hey, stay away from this area because these are bad reviews. And so you kind of miss that. If I'm in upper state New York, where do I go? It's like, well, I can go anywhere. It doesn't mean I'm going to get good pizza.
Well, that's a really good point too, because like there's two things I think happening here. One, he has a branding color of red and yellow, so he's using that in the content of the data, which I think is a mistake most of the time. You should be using it based on, is this good or is this bad? Because it looks like New York has horrible pizza and I don't want to go there because it's all red.
Exactly.
But the second thing is he's basing the visual on the number of reviews, and that also, to me as a pizza eater, isn't as important as what's the best reviews. Like what you're saying, Michael, if there's some place that has like a perfect 10 rating, that's what I want to see pop. I don't necessarily care that all of these pizzas or all these places have been reviewed between like 50 to 500 reviews. That doesn't matter as much. First, I want to see what's best, and then the second thing I want to see is, well, how many people said it was best. But first, I want to see that rating. I want that to pop. So there should, to your point, there should be like a couple big green spots here. Like, oh, that's the pizza I need to go to. I'm gonna find out more.
Correct.
One of the things to add on to that I appreciate too is, hey, this is great. I can see the total number of reviews, but I would like some interactivity or more information about the frequency of those reviews. If this was last reviewed, like 6 months ago or a year ago and hasn't had anything since, I might avoid that place or look to see, hey, if it closed down. But I guess we only can work with the data that we have, and I know there's a lot of really great information data sitting behind the scenes. So if I was to kind of redo this, I'd actually surface that data up and provide some more insights. This to me just doesn't feel like it's enough.
Okay. What else do you got in the what other page you got here that you can show?
Let me see. So the other one was very similar to the user reviews.
And the one poor guy in Alabama.
Exactly. Yeah. So
sorry.
And I think that very similar to the Dave's reviews and kind of the whole community thing. It's very similar. But in here you can actually see what their comments were, and almost like a Yelp review. Actually click on a place and figure out, hey, is this really any good or not?
Okay. Do you like this one, Joe? What do you think about this one in particular?
This one, if what I'm wanting to know is like who the people are and what their opinions are and what's the kind of thing that seems to ring their bell or suit their fancy more than others, this this would be perfect. Because you've got the, you've got the map, you've got the showing the concentration. I mean, obviously it's a little bit skewed since 1700, whatever, 1700 people are in New York, and one guy's way down in Alabama, and all the rest of them in New York, right? So so there's a little bit of skewing there, and the thing about the colors where the intensity of the color has nothing to do with either the intensity of the score or the intensity of how many times did they do a review. I still have not figured out what the intensity of the color is supposed to be. I guess it looks like if it's greater than 9, it's a darker shade of red, I guess,
I
based on the
think so.
score. Is that? I mean, that's what it looks like
It
looking
looks
at
like
the heat map there. And let's see, if they were to, I don't know that it would interest me, but if they were to do a graph on the followers, that if you click on that, all the red balls go away and they're replaced by yellow, whatever color that is, yellow balls that show the intensity of the following that these people have. Not that I don't know that would, but it's just a piece of information that if you wanted to highlight, you ought to be able to highlight it.
Great. Is there any other Michael that do you have here? And I see you have like 7 different position tree. What is that?
Yeah, well, those ones aren't working with
Mm.
the Power BI Online. Although when in reading the description, I think those would actually provide more statistical information about understanding if the review itself was more accurate than what it should be. So it's removing maybe some reviews where people aren't either posting as much, or maybe they're fake accounts, or whatever it might be. So it sounds like that would have been interesting if that actually worked. Otherwise, this is the last dashboard that's really
Okay.
accessible.
Yeah, it's funny that the community have the slide in red, but then they have everything in red, and then the other one is in yellow. I don't know, the one on the right.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, I think it was
each
the whole
more
branding
critical,
thing.
right?
I'm
sorry.
I know it was mentioned earlier. I don't agree also with, the branding choice. Just because your colors might be the red and yellow doesn't mean you have to use these colors, throughout. It's kind of for me, it's also difficult to see, kind of this yellow, beige, whatever, in the font colors. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I do like that here you're comparing something. You're comparing Dave versus the community. At least that's a good thing. It's just a matter of, the first, the date axis. That's something that it was on the other one. And in the chat, Timothy is saying the date axis don't line up between top and bottom. This was on a previous slide, but users may compare two things without realizing. And this happens like here again. It doesn't seem like those axes are the same thing. The ones we can see
They're
the ones
not.
on the right are in month, and the ones on the left are in years. I think I'm not 100% sure. Is that
Yeah,
the
and you don't have
case?
a 0 level axis. So this 7, you've got 5.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think that's the other thing. Anybody else have any other comment, or Chris, about this one in particular?
Yeah, well, I noticed too, you can see then on Dave's score in the bottom left, where unfortunately, so he didn't do any reviews in a couple of years. The line chart, then the score by month, still connects to across that gap.
Yeah.
So it looks like, oh, in 2020, he liked everything at about 7.5, and that's not the case at all. That's just missing data, no reviews. So unfortunately, like that should be just nothing.
Yeah.
There should be just, a break in that line chart. So that's something that they've run across as well. And that's sometimes can be tricky to overcome. You almost then need to not use a line chart if it's going to automatically connect across a gap like that.
It's misleading.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Definitely, it's
Yeah, we saw that
confusing
here too on the main
Yeah.
chart,
Yeah.
which
in the
was
main
Yeah.
chart.
inaccurate.
Okay,
2020 is missing.
and that's the idea. That's the idea. But when you're like talking about charts or anything that you're creating with other people, then you will see those things that others are seeing. That's the important thing about you know talking with others, share your charts or your visualization, because that interaction and that communication with other people will help you see how others are seeing your visualizations, and that's how you can make them better and better. Like we're here. That's
Yeah.
the idea, the main idea. So you have any other, Michael, or that's the last one? You got it?
That was the
Okay.
one. That was
Let
it.
me so Joe, I have the one from you. Let me see if I can
Yep. The
share that.
pie within a pie within a pie.
Yeah,
Because we're talking about the pizza pie.
is that one of them, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. To make it. Wow. Oh,
Mm.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it looks pretty cool, but
Wow.
just because it looks cool doesn't mean that it's useful. It's three nested pie charts, right? Forming consistent, not consistent. It isn't consistent. Concentric rings. You're supposed to be able to make comparisons of how reading habits have changed from 1960 to 2008.
Wow.
So,
Mm.
you see the first two show
Mhm.
a 20, you got a 20-year gap, right?
Uh-huh.
1960 to 1980. But from 1980 to 2008, you got a 28-year gap. What happened in 2000? I don't know. Maybe 2008 was the most recent information that they've got. It's reasonable to assume that you could have located data for the I don't know, for the ensuing years. Maybe have another little bitty circle, but that's what they're trying to show is showing then at each of these periods of time what is the breakdown of what your source is of where you're going to be reading stuff and getting your entertainment, I suppose. But the information that you get, do you read the information just from something that's printed from your computer, from your phone, from the TV, or from what?
Okay. So I think, I mean, this is a great example. I mean, I think what we would do, and I put it on the chat, is I think, Jojo, the cool thing about this example is how can we make it better? I think we all need to
Yep.
start thinking, how can we make it better? I
My
said
whole
here,
point.
what do you like about this dashboard? I'll be perfectly honest. What I like is the data. That's it. The visualization, no, but I like the data. The data seems super interesting. Super
Mm.
interesting what you brought in. But now we have to make it better. We have to figure out between all of us,
Yes.
how can we, what do you think, Chris, the first thing that came to your mind when
Yeah.
when I open it and you were like, wow, never seen this. What
Yeah.
do you think?
I mean, that's a great point. I actually hadn't thought about that, but that's a great way to look at it. Like if you can separate the data from the visual, that's totally right. Because yeah, this one first reaction for me was, Joe, like you were saying, this is maybe a monstrosity is too much for that word, but a
Yep.
donut hole within a pie chart, within a bullseye, and then it's compounded by the confusing headline, like evolution of reading. I don't think of TV as reading. It's just like where you're getting your content. So I think that is a
Right.
great thing. I would suggest getting the data underneath the underlying data and redoing it from the ground up. Yeah, because it does seem like the story here is I think it is, we used to read more in print. Now we're getting a lot from computers. Like if that's the headline, which is kind of an obvious headline, but maybe it's quantified in an interesting way, then I would start with that. And I don't know if that's a bar chart is the best way to do it, or if there's more reading happening. So both the bar and the mix within the bar would be changing. But that's what I would do first. I would just, and I've probably all done this. I've done that as well. I'm like, okay, I kind of see what this visual is trying to do. Ideally, you can, if it's an Excel, go to like a hidden tab that has the actual data, or copy it, download it out of a Tableau dashboard, and then try to build it again in a clearer way. So yeah, that's what I would do.
What do you think, Mike? When you saw the first time, boom, in your head, wow.
I think anytime you use like a radial chart or something like this, you know, it's intended to be, you know, just kind of like make you look at the big picture. It's like, oh, that's interesting. But then when you start asking questions and you want to do comparison, then this kind of chart seems to fall apart.
Yes.
You know, something you know, Chris mentioned, hey, the bigger story really seems the decline in print reading compared to other medium, maybe. And if that's the case, you know, what's happening right now is my eyes are shifting left to right to find out what these colors are. The numbers, again, it just seems very focused on print. To me, it would be a better title, you know, the decline of print compared to whatever. But unravel this, just make it bar charts, you know, throughout the years, and then you could see the decline in print, but you're going to see, you know, an increase, you know, of all other things, whether it's electronics, computer, you know, TV in some cases. But uh, I think the bar chart in this scenario would be kind of the best way, because the labeling could be built right in. You don't have to shift your focus and try to figure out comparison.
Yeah. So we have here, it says from the chat, even if you want to keep the layout, at least visually call out something important, highlight, color. Computers, for example, computers jump on the scene in 2008 to replace other media types. So try to put some story out there. It's not clear. Also, somebody says, Timothy here, does print includes Kindles, tablets? That's a very good question.
Yeah.
The other
or do
thing
they
is,
lump it in with computers?
yeah, the other thing, it says reading for me, but when I want to look at it, for me was, it's a TV reading, it's a recorded music reading that I'm reading, that's listening music. I don't know. That was that confuses me a little bit. But definitely, I mean, you have to redo the whole thing right from scratch, but it's really good. I like the data per se, right? The data, it's really interesting. So what do you select this, Joe? What do you
Well,
find?
I selected it because it tells an interesting story, and it's an interesting way of looking at the wrong way to tell an interesting story.
Yeah.
Where
That's a good way to
right?
put it.
Yeah,
Yep.
and where it's trying to make it look like you're talking about one thing, reading, as you correctly pointed out, when in reality we're looking at, again, it's a different question. You know, the decline of print media, the emergence of computer, the you know, the way society has changed since 1960. You know, but yeah, I mean, how the contribution of radio has changed. Well, you don't know how the contribution of radio has changed, because if you notice, the only two things that are labeled are print and computer. They don't label anything else. So you're set to guess, you know, what do they mean? Had they put data labels in there and put the you know, the legend labels within the slices themselves, then that this possibly you could possibly keep the same visual, though I agree it's better as a bar chart than you know. And then there's no entry at all for computer prior to 2008. You know, someone mentioned one of the common comments that came in from the chat, the emergence of computers in 2008, or how, you know, did they all of a sudden, you know, there were no computers before 2008. You know, well, yeah, what about the PC Junior and the TRS 80 and the Commodore 64? Right, they came out before 2008, way before 2000. They were around in 1980, right? So, or maybe the percentage of the information was so little that you know, the dark green would have been, I don't know, the width of a human hair and would not have mattered. But the other thing is, again, to the point about making it a bar instead of a circle, instead of a donut concentric, whatever the heck you want to call this thing,
Mhm.
is that, we as people, think about it, we are better at judging area than we are
Mhm.
at judging angles. So we're fooled into believing that the segments represent similar populations or similar proportions, when in reality they don't. And that's the biggest flaw of a pie chart, especially when you are trying to compare multiple time periods with multiple progressions from multiple vectors in multiple dimensions. I don't even know that I could say that twice in the same way.
Maybe you can say it again.
Yeah. Well,
I
we're
get you though. I get
recorded, so
you.
just yeah. So yeah, I mean, I agree. It's horrible, but it's cool. That's just it. The two things that it's got going for it is kind of cool looking, one, and two, the what was already pointed out, Chris and Michael and you, Yamil, that the data behind it is there is an interesting story to be told here. If
Correct.
we could get to the underlying story, the underlying data, and tell the story in a different, perhaps more visually compelling and accurate way.
Correct. Correct. So in the chat, they recommend Timothy say area chart will
Yep.
have been another choice. That's correct. I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I would even say
I
worst case, like if like the meeting was coming up in 2 minutes and somebody gave you this, like I got to go present this. If you could split it up into three pie charts, label a top 1960, 1980, 2008, and then just have a couple labels done. That might be a rare case where a pie chart, if it's just a couple labels, might be okay and gets you through the meeting.
Yep.
Correct. Correct. And I know that you have one more. This one that it's
yeah,
very
the
interesting.
worst pie chart in the history of man. It is a pie chart after the pizza delivery boy or girl. I don't want to be sexist. The pizza delivery person has dropped it, picked it up, and shoved it under the door. And the toppings all got shoved into one. I don't know what the blue is. Unless they're blue pineapple or something. So
it looks like a
yeah,
frisbee or something. Like you're doing
yeah.
like this or something. I mean, it's
Mm.
So what is this exactly? What every few months of what? What is this? Do you remember?
It's talking about the frequency with at which these. I thought at the time it had something to do with movie, but there was no caption with it. It was just on a site that showed how not to do pie charts. The worst charts in the history of mankind. But there wasn't. This one, unfortunately, didn't have any narrative because it kind of speaks for itself as to its badness. As far as what in the cat hair it's trying to do. Yeah, and the numbers, right? You're adding up the numbers, and 42 at
Well,
least
they
they
come to
do add up.
100.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that. I did this. I did the same thing you did. Yes, at least the numbers do add up to
How about
100.
yeah?
And you'll notice the 42%. If
Uh-huh.
you're looking at the shaded lines, the 42 kind of looks like it's that much bigger than the 29, maybe. But the
Oh,
2%, is it a slice or is it the color area or is it the shading? And what about where the dark blue intersects with the light
yeah.
blue? What
That's what I
does
was
that?
gonna say. Here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
and then you see the little bitty light blue every few days, 8% and 2%. So that, that looks like it's maybe 4 times bigger than the 2%. So yeah, those are proportional, kind of. But yet, I don't know. You could have done it in a different way. I don't know. Maybe it's talking about how often do people buy frisbees? So yeah.
So this is this is another blooper. I will say.
Yes, this is definitely a blooper.
Yeah. So what do you think, Michael? This one blows your mind?
No, I would just skip this entirely and not give it any thought. This is like,
Me too.
it's one thing to be okay, even if it was like a pie, but it's not even it's like a bent, with all the shadowing and things. It's like, it's just overkill, and I can't even, start looking at this data. So for me, I would have just said no and started playing on my phone.
Hard pass.
Yeah, this comes in a way when I look at it the first time, Joe, and I think Chris, what do you think about this? When people are trying to do this charts that are like 3D charts,
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
that's what reminds me.
it is. But
Uh,
even worse, it's like 3.5D or something. It's like, I don't know if there's like a 4D, like a temporal rip in
4D.
the time continuum that made this.
Yeah.
It's
You got to wear the special glasses because then it starts popping out.
that's right.
that's right.
Yeah.
You
But
get
Mike,
cross-eyed looking at it.
yeah, I was with you. Like, this isn't even worth. Like, it was totally misconceived, and better to move on.
Oh, I love the comment. That's hilarious.
So it reminds me
Accurate.
when I left my frisbee in the car down here in South Mississippi during the summer. Yeah,
That's what it
Absolutely.
is.
absolutely. No, that's great, Joe. I mean, that's a very good example of what people again should not do.
Yes.
And that's the idea.
Agreed.
Please don't do that. You're not helping anyone. You're not helping
Yeah.
your users or your executives or whoever you're not helping anyone. You're getting them more confused. No insights. Don't do that. We're pretty much we're at the end. We did it again. This is
Woohoo.
thank you so much, everyone. I wanted to show let me see if I have it right here, guys. Something really quick we wanted to say. So I wanted to say, Data Meaning, our sponsor here, we're a company that we work for that is sponsored this show. We actually yesterday received an award for becoming the Alteryx 2021 America's Partner of the Year award.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Congratulations. Yeah.
Data Meaning, we became the 2021 Alteryx, like I said, America's Partner of the Year award. These are some of the guys here that work at Data Meaning, Marvin and Josh and Katie and some other guys here. It was a big effort. Thank you, everyone, that support us through this show, to many other things that we do during the week, and all our clients. And thank you so much. And of course, I always thank you. I mean, I called, Joe and Chris kind of like the Avengers. Like, you guys are my, like, you're coming back. You're like the first Avengers of
You
this
are too
show.
kind.
I think that I was told that we're in the 30th, I think 31st show. Aaron, tell me if that's right or wrong. But and then we hope to do a 50th show. When we're gonna do 50, we're gonna invite you all, and we're gonna do a big celebration. And Dr. Joe, I mean, big fan of yours and all your stuff, and of course, and Chris, please follow them on LinkedIn. They have great content. I mean, I love every time that Chris is putting like, dude, business, don't business.
Yeah.
Super interesting stuff. And Dr. Joe, he's doing all this, speaking everywhere in the world. I mean, follow him, please. And you have also that show, Mind to Mind, right? Tell us about the show. That's very important, so people can follow you.
Sure. The second Thursday of every month, I co-host a talk show called Mind to Mind with Tiffany Nielsen. Second Thursday at 4 p.m. It's simulcast on LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, Vimeo, and IoT Marketing. We just talk about the things that are on our, mind. Sometimes it's technical, sometimes it's not. Tomorrow's show, since it's the month of Valentine's Day, we're talking about the power of love.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. And I'm like, super happy to please follow all these great content creators. I mean, great friends of us. And thank you so much for being here. And of course, I'll hope to see you again. We have, again, every single week we're doing this at 3 p.m. We have different topics. Next week is pets. So we have such a dog lover, cat lovers. I mean, probably they're going to fight here the next week. But, we have a lot of pet lovers are going to join us next week. And we're going to have data visualization related to dogs, cats, and things like that. So much fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks all.
Everybody. Thank you. Have a wonderful week. Wonderful week.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
You too. Bye.